Back when I was in nursing school, I had to do a rotation at a long-term care facility, one of those old underfunded buildings out in the rural part of the county where the walls always smell faintly like antiseptic and old linens, and the lights flicker just enough to make you feel like you're in a horror movie. I was assigned the graveyard shift, shadowing a senior nurse named Maria. She was kind but quiet, a no-nonsense type. On my first night after our rounds, she gave me a weird warning. If you hear room 209's call light, ignore it. I laughed, thinking she was joking. Why? What if they need something? She just looked at me and said, "Room 209's been empty for 6 years." Sure enough, when I checked the chart, room 209 had no patient assigned. But a few hours into my shift, while logging vitals on my tablet, the soft chime of a call light pinged. Room 209. I stared at it for a second before checking the hallway camera feed. The light above 209's door was blinking slowly. I radioed Maria, and she responded calmly, "Leave it." Against my better judgment, I went down the hall and stopped in front of the room. The door was slightly ajar. I nudged it open and peered. Inside, the bed was made, lights off, no one inside, except in the corner of the room someone had written something on the wall, small letters, faded with time. "Still here." I backed out and closed the door. Later that night, I asked Maria about it. She hesitated, then finally said, "Patient named Eleanor died in that room, heart failure. But toward the end she got strange. Kept saying she didn't want to go back in the dark, that someone was waiting for her under the bed. Apparently, a few nurses reported seeing shadows in 209 in the years after her death. Even got called in by security once, when motion detectors picked something up inside, but no one could ever explain the flickering lights, the phantom call buttons, or the quiet humming some swore they heard when walking past. My last night. There, just before dawn, I walked past room 209 one more time. The door was shut, but I heard something faint from inside, a soft humming, followed by 3 slow knocks from the other side of the door. I didn't open it. I just walked away, and every once in a while, when I worked the night shift at my current hospital and walked past an empty room with the door cracked just slightly, I wonder if Eleanor ever really left, or if something else found her first. I used to coach junior varsity softball at a small-town high school in Missouri, the kind of town where everyone knows everyone, and nothing ever really happens until it does. This story started during spring practice 2 years ago when the groundskeeper Carl approached me after a scrimmage with a weird look on his face. "You ever see a girl in white hanging around the bleachers?" he asked, scratching the back of his neck. I thought he meant a parent, maybe a student volunteer. "Nope," I said. "Why?" Carl looked uneasy. "She's not one of yours. But she's been there 3 days in a row. Standing just behind the last row of seats. Doesn't say a word, just watches." I laughed it off. Carl had always been a little jumpy, especially since his wife passed. But that night, while packing up equipment, I looked out toward the bleachers, and there she was, half hidden in the shadows at the very back, wearing a white dress, long black hair, standing death still. I called out to her, but she didn't move. I jogged toward her, blinking in the stadium lights, but by the time I reached the spot, she was gone. No sound, no footprints in the dirt. Just vanished. I told myself I imagined it. Long day, dehydration, whatever. The next few nights she kept appearing, always in the same place, always watching. One of my players, Jenna, came to me after practice, pale and visibly shaken. "Coach," she whispered, "who's that girl under the bleachers?" I froze. "You saw her too?" Jenna nodded. "She was crying. I thought she was hurt, but when I looked under there, she just disappeared. We searched. Nothing. That weekend, I decided to look into the school's history. I found something that made my blood run cold. Back in 1994, a student named Emily Barker disappeared during a track meet. She was last seen sitting in the bleachers. A week later, her body was found buried beneath them. She'd been strangled. They never caught who did it. From that day on, I refused to let my girls practice past dusk. We stopped using the bleachers altogether, but still, students kept reporting sightings. A pale girl in white, crying, watching. One night, months later, the janitor called me in a panic. He'd been locking up when he heard someone sobbing from beneath the bleachers. He followed the sound, said it got louder the closer he got, but when he knelt down and looked underneath, he saw her crawling toward him on her elbows, dragging herself forward, mouth wide open but no longer crying, just grinning. He quit the next day. They finally tore down the bleachers last fall to build new ones, but during demolition, they found another set of bones beneath the concrete slab. Small, fragile, not Emily's, someone else. And now there are two girls beneath the bleachers and they're still watching. I worked for the city's public maintenance crew for 6 years, doing all the dirty jobs no one else wanted. Most of the time, that meant clogged sewage tunnels, storm drain cleanouts, and the occasional dead animal in the wrong place. But there's one job from 3 summers ago that still wakes me up at night, and no matter how many times I try to rationalize it, something about it never adds up. It was mid-July, hot as hell, and we got a call about a strange smell coming from a large drain pipe behind an old industrial building on the edge of town. Locals had complained about the stench, and one reported hearing someone in there at night. Probably a raccoon or a squatter, we figured. When we got there, the air already reeked before we were within 50 feet. It was that bloated, sweet, sick smell of something that had been rotting for days. We all had masks, but it didn't help much. The opening to the pipe was about 4 feet wide, big enough to walk through hunched, and ran beneath the building toward the sewer main. We drew straws. I got the short one. I stepped into the pipe, flashlight in one hand, radio clipped to my collar. The stench grew thicker with every step, but there weren't any obvious signs of animals, no hair, no bones, no nesting, just sludge and water and something else. About 40 feet in, my flashlight caught movement. I froze. It was just a head, half submerged in the water, a figure, pale, human-shaped. At first I thought it was a mannequin someone had dumped, but as I got closer, I saw the eyes were open, and they blinked. He was wedged into a narrow offshoot in the O. Pipe wall, body contorted like he had squeezed himself in head first. Completely naked, filthy and shivering, his arms were wrapped around his own chest like he was trying to hold something in. I tried speaking, asking if he was okay, but he didn't respond. Then he smiled. It wasn't a normal smile. It was wide. Too wide, like he didn't understand how to do it properly, and he whispered something. I leaned closer to hear it. It sounded like, "He's behind you." I turned fast, heart pounding, but there was nothing behind me, just the echo of water dripping. When I looked back and he was gone, just gone, no splash, no sound, like he'd never been there. I scrambled out of the pipe and told my supervisor. We called the police. They brought in dogs, divers, thermal scanners. They found nothing. But here's the part that chills me the most. After the search was called off, I walked back to the pipe one last time. On the inside wall, just near the entrance, someone had carved deep into the concrete. He crawls back in. They never found out who he was. But sometimes, on certain nights, when the storm drains overflow and the streets run slick with rainwater, I swear I can still hear him whispering from the darkness below, and I'll never walk over a manhole cover the same way again. Tian started with the cries, soft at first, almost mistakable for the creak of an old floorboard or distant TV static, but over the course of a week, they became unmistakably human. Every night around 2 a.m., from the apartment directly below, mine 3B, I heard them. A woman sobbing, gasping for air between choked wails like something inside her had snapped. I would lie awake, heart pounding, staring at the ceiling as the cries filled my apartment like a siren's song meant only for me. I live in a modest complex in upstate New York. Mostly quiet, mostly older tenants. Apartment 3B had been vacant for months after the last tenant moved to assisted living. I'd even talked to the building manager about how they were planning renovations before relisting it, so it made no sense for me to be hearing someone. Down there, let alone someone clearly in distress. After the third night of those cries, I went to the manager the next morning. No one's living in 3B, he told me flatly. It's empty. You sure it's not coming from another unit? I was sure. Still, to humor me, he agreed to check. We went down together, and he unlocked the door. The air that came out was stale, heavy, and cold. The kind of cold that doesn't just touch your skin, it sinks into your bones. The unit was, as he'd said, empty. No furniture, no sign of anyone. Dust everywhere, no power, nothing. But as I stood in the doorway, I felt it, like something watching us, breathing just behind a wall. I didn't say anything, and neither did he, but I could see it in his eyes. He locked the door quickly and gave a stiff nod. If you hear anything again, call me, but there's no one in there. That night the cries returned, louder, angrier. This time there were words, gurgled and broken, but still words. He's here, let me out. Why did you lock me in over and over again? I didn't sleep. The next morning I went online and started digging. That's when I found an old forum post from 4 years ago. A woman had written about the same apartment, same cries, same time of night. She said her niece had moved into 4B, my apartment, and heard the cries every night. She contacted police. They searched 3B and found nothing. Weeks later, the niece was found in her tub with both wrists cut and a phrase scratched into the mirror above the sink. She's still there. The post ended with a comment. If you ever hear her cry, don't answer. Don't knock. And for God's sake, don't open the door. I moved out the next week, but sometimes when I stay in unfamiliar places, I'll wake at 2 a.m. and hear soft crying behind a wall that shouldn't be there, and I don't think she ever stayed in 3B. I think she followed me out.